Trey Fix Wolansky is on his way to being a full-timer in the NHL. We'll tell you why next on Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Hayden Heilsorn, and with me is my co-host, Jay Foster. We're here to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of your favorite team and ours, the CBJ. Before we get started, we want to thank you all for making this your first listen. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, YouTube, and the SiriusXM app. It is time to do a season review for one of many Cleveland Monsters fans' favorite, Trey Fix Wolansky. This guy has dominated the last couple of years in the AHL. It has been really, really exciting to watch. And the Blue Jackets have gotten a whole lot out of just a 7th-round draft pick in 2018. Jay, you and I were just talking about that before we got going here, just how amazing it is the Blue Jackets have been able to squeeze such a great AHL talent out of a 7th rounder, and hopefully it's ready to blossom into an NHL talent, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think there's and I have done this before myself. There's this instinct to be like, well, he's 24 years old, I believe.
Yes.
And he has 3 career NHL games. Oh, 3 career NHL points, 15 career NHL games. And there's an instinct to be like, well, he's 24. What has he done with that yet? He was a 7th round draft pick. He went, hang on, I have it pulled up. He went 204th overall in the 7th round. Of that draft, there are only 2 other players in that 7th round that have played in the NHL. That is Josiah Slavin, who was a Chicago draft pick, and Tyler Tucker, who was a St. Louis draft pick. Tyler Tucker has played 26 games, has 4 points. Slavin has played 15 games and has 1 point. Trey Fix Wolansky, 15 NHL games, 2 goals, 3 points. For a guy that you basically took a flyer, and we've talked about this before, I feel like once you get past the 4th round, you're really just kind of throwing stuff at a wall to see what sticks. So the fact that Trey Fix Wolansky has come in, has been an NHL player, even if this is all he gets, that's to me feels like a success for this draft. And that's not even getting into his AHL season, where he was just lights out all season long for the Cleveland Monsters.
Oh, yeah, he was just amazing this past year with the Monsters, both from his normal spot on the right wing to even on the power play. They put him on the left side because he has such a lethal one-timer. He had 71 points in 61 games this past year with the Monsters. Just amazing. And I have an NHL comparison of my own. Peek behind the curtain here. Jay, the subtitles on the side. And you already have an NHL player that I love very dearly in the name Matt Calvert next to Trey Fix Wolansky. Is that what you're seeing when you see Trey Fix Wolansky? You see flashes of our boy Matty Calvert?
I think so, yeah. He has my friend calls him Matty Hustle, which I've always loved because that's what he does. Trey Fix Wolansky has the energy. He's got the grit. I know the previous Cleveland Monsters head coach, the name of whom I am completely blanking on right now, but used to call him an angry little bowling ball on the ice. And that's what he is. He is just like Tasmanian devil out there, and he can back it up with scoring as well. Like I said, 71 points in 61 games. 29 of those were goals. The next highest scoring Monster had 39 points. He outscored his teammates by 32 points this season. That to me is MVP level.
Yeah. No, he's been phenomenal this past year with the Monsters. You see Matty Hustle out of him. I see another current NHLer that I think he reminds me of just this past season when I was reviewing his tape of what he was doing with Cleveland. I saw a AHL version of Johnny Gaudreau this past year with the Monsters. He can pass, he can shoot, he has a dangerous shot from anywhere in the zone. I feel like Johnny has that. And then just the speed that Trey Fix Wolansky is able to build up for himself through the neutral zone also reminds me of Johnny. And he's doing it at a size that you would consider small, 5'7". He's doing some damage, guys. This isn't just just another name. This isn't just another like Nathan Gerby that you hear about, going back and forth between Cleveland all the time and comes in and is scrappy. This is some serious talent with this guy. I see a lot in him. I mean, I know that's crazy to say he was Johnny Gaudreau this past year, but really he has a lot of really great basic fundamentals that I think are going to translate well to the NHL as long as he can keep up with just the brutality of playing, night in, night out. And because he's had some injury problems. He had a groin injury his second year with the Monsters that kept him out a huge chunk of time. So he's a little behind in that fashion. Like you said, he's 24, which is, kind of late-ish. But again, he's had injury problems. And it's just, frankly, he was a 7th-round pick. So it's like it takes a while for those guys to prove it. But for me, Jay, I look at him and I'm like, he's checked the Monsters box for me. He's done enough in Cleveland to have shots in Columbus. And we can talk a little bit more about that next here on Locked On Blue Jackets.
But first, I've got to tell you guys about Athletic Greens because I've been taking Athletic Greens for probably a couple of years now. I don't really understand where the time's gone, but I needed something to kind of kickstart my morning. I was tired all the time. I was getting sick a lot. I really hate taking like a fistful of pills and vitamins. And so I thought, hey, let's see what AG1 is all about. And what is it? Well, if it is one scoop in a cup of water every single day, that's what I do. I get up in the morning, I put my AG1 into my water bottle, I shake the heck out of it, and I'm absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. It supports gut health, nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, aging, just all of the things that you need to feel good in your body. And right now, it's time for you to do what I did, reclaim your health, arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. Like I said, it's just one scoop in a cup of water every single day. That's it. No need for a million different pills or supplements to look out for your health. And to make it even easier, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs for your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Once again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
Continuing on with the Trey Fix Wolansky season review, again, 71 points in 61 games this past year with the Monsters. He was absolutely phenomenal. In fact, Jake in Cleveland, sitting on his couch right now wearing his Monsters hat, is kicking himself because he knows we're stealing probably his best player, because he absolutely was amazing this past year for the Monsters. But the question is, Jay, does Trey Fix Wolansky deserve a full-time spot with the CBJ this upcoming season? My hunch is he does, but your overall thoughts?
Yeah, I think my short answer is yes. My longer answer is I think it very much depends on what training camp looks like for him. What preseason looks like for him. I fully expect him to be one of the late cuts. I would expect him to be, maybe even one of the last cut. The problem is the Blue Jackets have kind of a logjam on wing, especially on left wing, which is his preferred wing, if I am not mistaken. Right wing, that makes it a little easier. The Blue Jackets are kind of thin on right wing. The problem becomes, do you play Trey Fix Wolansky over players like Emil Bemstrom? Do you play him over players like Mathieu Olivier? Looking at kind of the right wing, I had the depth chart up and then lost it for the Blue Jackets, but Trey Fix Wolansky, in my mind, is maybe the third or fourth best right wing on the team right now.
which
So,
is saying a lot. That's saying a lot because
what you will.
who are you throwing over there? We're throwing Gaudreau, or Gaudreau's on the left wing, right?
So Gaudreau plays left wing. Patrik Laine is listed as a left wing. I'm not sure whether he will play left wing, right wing, center. I'm not sure what's happening there. Right now, the right wings for this team, we've got Igor Chinikov, Justin Danforth, Olivier, Kirill Marchenko, Trey Fix Wolansky. Those, to my mind, are the 5 guys that are going to be competing for those spots. Obviously, there's some movement to be made there. Like I said, Patrik Laine can play left, right, center. I don't know what's going to happen with him. But in my mind, looking at how this team shakes out, like, I would put Trey Fix Wolansky on the third line, and I would be happy with that, personally.
Yeah, I would love Trey Fix Wolansky on the third line because I think he's more than. I don't think this isn't the typical player that I would just look at and be like, oh, he's a Matt Calvert. I don't see a Matt Calvert in him just because I think he can do more offensively than what Matt Calvert can do. But I think that is very valuable on the third line. If you could have a guy come in like that and is producing offense and generating offense for some of those lines that have struggled to get offense going, i.e., when Bemstrom and Robinson play together and Foodie, these guys that have offensive talent that really just haven't found that connection with the other guy on the other side of the rink as them. If we can put Trey Fix Wolansky in that to generate maybe some more offense there, that would be huge for the third line. So yes, I think he's ready for that right now. Again, we just haven't seen him. He really hasn't had a full-time shot to be in the NHL because he's just played 15 games. He hasn't done great. I think he just has 3 points in those 15 games, but that's not a huge sample size. He had a goal his first night, his first game that he played. He scored that night. And the coaches really, really like him. I was just watching the prospect review with Dylan Tyre, who covers the team very well. He was talking to Chris Clark, who kind of oversees what's going on with the Monsters. He's the GM of the Monsters, and he said glowing things about Trey Fix Wolansky. I highly recommend you go check it out. I don't want to quote him word for word because I don't remember off the top of my head, but he expects Trey Fix Wolansky to be in the NHL regularly here in the upcoming future because he's done a lot in Cleveland. Like, that box for me, Jay, as a fan, completely checked. Like, when you're playing a video game, when you're playing like MLB The Show, because I feel like that's the one where you really grind through the minors, you get done with AAA. You've like, I've hit, 40 home runs a season in AAA for the last 2 seasons. Can I finally get a call up to the majors? That's Trey Fix Wolansky in the NHL in real life. This guy is putting up huge numbers in the AHL. I think he's ready. But again, would you take him over Igor Chinikov? Like, if it came down to him or Igor Chinikov for that last spot on the third line, which really sees a lot of time, which one are you taking? Or the fourth line even? Like, if it's down to those 2 guys, who gets to travel on a night? Like, I don't know. It's tough because we haven't seen a whole lot of Trey Fix Wolansky, but he can do a lot. He reminds me of a small Johnny Gaudreau. He's like a mini ham and cheese right now. He's just a piece of ham, really.
Yeah. I will say that the fact that we're having this discussion of do you take Fix Wolansky or do you take Chinikov when one of those guys is a first-round pick and one of those guys is a seventh-round pick, I think that says a lot to Trey Fix Wolansky. I really can't speak to like who I would say in that situation. Like, it would really depend on what the team looks like, who his other line mates are, because I feel like there are players that Fix Wolansky will enhance in a different way than Chinikov will. I think Chinikov is a goal scorer. I think Fix Wolansky is more of a playmaker. He had... Oh, my laptop doesn't like all of the things that's happening. His final season in the WHL, he had 102 points in 65 games with the Edmonton Oil Kings. 65 of those were assists. He had 65 assists in 65 games. If he can I don't think he'll be able to recreate that in the NHL, but if you put him on a line with, say, honestly, I could see those guys gelling on the same line, frankly. I think you have those 2 guys on the wing and then put somebody in center, whether that's Cole Sillinger, whether that's someone else. Like, I think that to me feels like a real fun time. So
That
it's
does
really
sound
tough
like
to
a fun
say.
time.
It's,
That does
it's so
sound like a
tough
fun
to look
time.
at this and say these 12 guys deserve to be in the NHL, because the fact of the matter is NHL rosters are not built from the best 12 guys, because if that was how it worked, you would have 4 top lines, and you don't. The third line has a different role to the top 6. The fourth line has a different role again, and I personally would rather see Trey Fix Wolansky murdering guys in the AHL than playing 6 minutes a night on that fourth line to play kind of a grinding style of hockey. I think he can do it. I don't think that suits his development. So I would love to see Trey Fix Wolansky in the NHL full time. I think his season this year has shown us the player that he can be. This is his first full season. I believe he's been injured each of his last 3 seasons in the pros. So, maybe one good season we shouldn't be looking at as, hey, this kid is good to go. I wouldn't be upset if he plays another game in the AHL. Another name that I would like to throw out there that longtime Monsters fans will probably be a little bit more familiar with, TJ Tynan, who has, I believe, been top 3 in AHL scoring for the past 4 seasons. He's got back-to-back MVP awards. He was part of that Calder Cup winning team for the Monsters. If that's who Trey Fix Wolansky turns into, I would not be mad about that. But I would really love to see him in the NHL on opening night.
Yeah. I said, what I say, Tom in Cleveland's picked his Monsters hat back up and put it back on. And he's feeling a little bit better that you just said that, Jay, because he is an electric player to watch, man. He moves the puck so well on the power play, and he just has that little burst. You talked about some of his WHL days, just highlights of him. I believe he played for the Wheat Kings, which is just, they have phenomenal jerseys. But he just would
Kings, not
the Oil Kings. Sorry, excuse me.
There's a lot of Kings.
There's a lot of Kings, but just watching him skate through guys at that level, it looks like if he can translate that confidence that he had playing with those kids to when he plays in the NHL and when he gets games, he can be explosive. I really do believe that. And he also has to stay healthy because, as you said, he's had some injuries over the last few years that have prevented him some serious opportunities to play full-time in the NHL. But I think he could one day. I really do. We have to have a discussion about his contract, and we will do that shortly. But first, a pause. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same thing when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head down to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right. The first time around, just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back, because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. We've had a fun discussion so far about our guy Trey Fix Wolansky, the 5'7" right winger that was drafted 7th round in 2018, is now in the conversation of, does he crack the lineup? We talked about that. But next we need to talk about his contract, because if this guy is going to be if he's going to flirt with making the full-time Blue Jackets roster, he's going to have to get paid. What do we pay this guy as a Blue Jackets organization? The Blue Jackets just paid him, $750,000 a year. And do you go about the same thing two-way? I think you try to re-sign that same deal. I don't think he's earned over $1 million yet, Jay, but what say you?
Yeah, so he signed his entry-level contract, which was 925K, 3 years. Last season, 750K, two-way contract. I would expect to see more of the same from Fix Wolansky and the Blue Jackets. I would love to see maybe 2 years. I don't know that they'll get 2 years. I think the cap situation with the Blue Jackets is just so weird at the minute that I could see a lot of these guys that, so just to look at who needs a new contract. Fix Wolansky, Carson Meyer, Uniluotu, Justin Richards, Marcus Bjork are all young prospects that need new contracts. And that's not even counting, Tim Burney needs a new contract, Gavin Bogo needs a new contract, Matthew Olivier, Lane Peterson. Those are all guys that need re-signing this summer. And then that's not even getting into next season, which is where it really gets tricky. I think a lot of these guys are going to be taking 1-year contracts. And, I always call them show me contracts. Take 750K. I would like to see him get a little bit of a bump, maybe up to that 950K. I don't think he'll hit $1 million. I would like to see him get a little bit of a bump based on the season he had in Cleveland. But I think he and a lot of these guys are going to be signing those 1-year show me contracts to prove that then when next year rolls around and the big money is going to be started to hand out, that they can stick around.
Yeah, this is a prove it year. Although I don't know if the Blue Jackets are going to be that team that is going to have kind of prove it chances, because it seems like the way that Jarmo's building this team, he's really building them completely different than what they've been the last 2 years, which is we're going to make a run at the playoffs, which means we're going to make a run at the Stanley Cup. So Jarmo's trying to build a Stanley Cup contender. Does Trey Fix Wolansky fit on that opening lineup with that mentality? I don't know. I don't know if he fit. I mean, it depends on the camp he's going to have, but certainly he's going to get a lot of looks simply based off the points that he put up this past year. There's a lot there. I don't want to, put anything against him just because he's a 7th rounder. I try to put that out of my mind. It's amazing to think about, but I don't try to consider that. I don't try to consider the fact that he's 5'7", because that is not fair to guys as well. They can't control how big they are sometimes. Certainly not their height. It's just, I don't know. I see a lot in him. I think he did a lot of damage with Cleveland that really impressed me, and I want to see if that translate. It hasn't through the first 15 games of his career totally, but again, that's just not enough. I think you absolutely nailed it. This is a contract where you just sign him to close to 750K, maybe a little bit more, maybe a bump up to 850. I don't know, but I'd like to see him re-sign with the Blue Jackets and get more chances, because I think he does have a bright future in the NHL. I just think it needs to show itself here in Columbus for the folks to really believe it. But that's where I'm at with him.
Yeah. It's I don't know, it's so difficult to kind of, and maybe this is just me, but it's really difficult to separate the fringe players in terms of, well, I really like this guy, and if they don't re-sign him, I will be sad. In the same way that when TJ Tynan went to, I believe, Colorado immediately after, Colorado or Chicago. I don't remember which team he went to immediately after leaving Cleveland. I was really sad about that. And I understand that he maybe didn't have room on the roster for a guy like Tynan. I don't know that there's room on the roster for a guy like Fix Wolansky, but he's one of those guys that I really, really want to see succeed. And, I know that you talk about how you can't look at him being a 7th round draft. You can't look at him being 5'7". Like, I think succeeding despite those things is just so impressive. Does that mean that he should get a call over someone who is maybe 6'2" and was taken in the 3rd round? I don't know, but he's a guy that's really easy to root for. And I think, again, that's coming back to the Matt Calvert of it all. He was a guy that was really, really easy to root for because he stepped on the ice and he just played every single game like it was going to be his last. And I can kind of see that with Fix Wolansky as well. Should we hand out some letter grades for this?
I'd love to hand out a letter grade to this guy.
Because for once, I came in knowing exactly what my grade was going to be. And I'm giving him an A-. I think an MVP. I think he was the MVP of the Monsters this season. Did he show as much as he could with the NHL? Maybe not. But for me, the fact that he came back from, he's had a lot of like season-ending injuries, and so to come back and have a fully healthy season, and to do that after I think a lot of Columbus fans had maybe started not necessarily writing him off, but thinking about maybe, is this guy as good as we've been told? And then he comes out and does that. He scored one goal this season in, God, how many games did he play? 9 games, 1 goal. But he was playing on average for about 12 minutes a night, and also the team was bad. The team stunk. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'm giving him an A- because this is our podcast and we can do what we like.
It is our podcast, so we can do what we like. I'm giving him big time benefit of the doubt, and I am giving him MVP for what he did with the Cleveland Monsters. I just think anybody that put on a show the way that he did up in Cleveland, it really does a lot for me. And he is a guy that it's easy to root for because he's done that as well. There's, of course, a lot of Cleveland Monsters fans that are Blue Jackets fans that want to see him continue to go up and have success in the NHL, so people can point back and be like, he did that in Cleveland, because he is good. He is amazing. I watched him. I'm watching some of his highlights. He plays with an extra just speed and extra twitch that I think is so hard to find. I think Johnny Gaudreau is certainly a player that has that speed / twitch, and I just think if we can somehow get Trey Fix Wolansky ready to play and comfortable to play in the NHL, he can have a flourishing career. But I got to grade his past season, and I'm going to give an A+ because I think he lit it up. So,
yeah, he gets an A+ in my heart for being one of my all-time favorite Cleveland Monsters, And
a great name, too. Fix Wolansky is cool. It's cool to say. That's all we have for you today. Tomorrow we'll be talking a little bit about what the Blue Jackets may decide to do or not to do with the 3rd overall pick. That's the plan. Thank you so much for listening, for making this your first listen every day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, YouTube, and the SiriusXM app. I've been Hayden Heilshorn. You can follow me on Twitter at HaydenH971. My co-host there is Jay Foster. You can find him on Twitter at _Jacob with a K, Foster with an R after the O. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets on Twitter. You can also email us, lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you once again for listening. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.